Previously on the Cast Beyond the Wall.
Far too much has been written about great men, and not nearly enough about morons.
We're gonna talk about Austin a little bit. He's joining us today. He's being promoted from special guest host to regular host.
This is the whodunit portion of the show. And luckily, we have Detective Lucari on the case. We are going to find out who killed Joffrey Baratheon.
Good. Have you got color in your cheek? It's nothing.
He's choking.
Are there some aces up your sleeve? Have you no idea that you're in deep? I dreamt about you nearly every night this week. How many secrets can you keep? Crawling back to you.
Please, Khaleesi,
You sold my secrets to the man who killed my father and stole my brother's throne. You want me to forgive you?
I have loved you.
Can we all, at least on this podcast, agree she made a really terrible mistake?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
I do.
Back to you. We could be together.
Do you think Oberyn's gonna win?
I do think it will be amazing when Oberyn wins and takes Tyrion with him down to Dorne, and Tyrion just is to hang out on the beach with all the women.
I killed her children. Then I raped her. Then I smashed her head in like this.
Crawling back to you.
If you want justice, you've come to the wrong place.
Marjorie will dig her claws in, you will dig your claws in, and you'll fight over him like beasts until you rip him apart. I will burn our house to the ground before I let that happen.
None of her cards are gonna come through for her, but she played a lot of them.
Kill me. Kill me. Kill me.
So Austin, tell me, how's this whole avoiding spoilers going for you?
It's not going well, Caleb. It's not going well at all.
I mean, I feel like you literally have to shove your head under a rock for 6 months and not come out.
It was going actually pretty well there for a really long time, actually. I was able to avoid it. I was watching John Oliver on HBO Go, and like a trailer started to pop up, and I just turned it off right away. It wasn't too bad. And then I'm like just scrolling, looking at video game articles and stuff like that. And the thumbnail image for this article on Game of Thrones, which I wasn't really looking for, it was just there in the feed, was a complete and horrible spoiler. It was awful.
What is seen cannot be unseen. But Austin, you should just be watching the trailers. That's the point HBO is trying to make. Just watch our trailers.
I'm gonna watch the show. I don't have to watch the trailers.
Welcome back to the Cast Beyond the Wall. I'm your host, Caleb Masters, and we have returned. We have risen from the ashes of the long break of Game of Thrones. We're like Peter Baelish of Game of Thrones podcast. We're playing the long game. We just appear for a while, and bam, we're back with, more awesome Game of Thrones talk. And, of course, I want to introduce you to my co-host, sir, in the great state of Arizona, the Southern Desert.
Austin Lucari.
Austin Lucari, the Debbie Downer of our podcast, the realist, the realist who is so real that he could quite be mistaken for a pessimist. But then, he's never disappointed. So there you go. Hey, Austin, how you feeling about Oberyn again? How's that going? Yeah.
Look, I know where you live. I'll come find you. And as soon as I find George R. R. Martin, he's over too. You're never going to see the 6th and 7th book.
Don't say that. All right. And my other co-host has recently relocated to a different desert of the lovely, flashy city of Las Vegas. Sir, introduce yourself.
Daniel Stahl.
And we are the Cast Beyond the Wall, and we're here today to get you fired up for Season 5 of Game of Thrones, starting in just over a week or less, depending on when you're listening to this podcast. And we're gonna have a lot of fun. We're gonna start off by going into a spoiler-free discussion. For those of you who want to go in like Austin, you want to go in blind, you want to know what's not to expect. So we're gonna leave the details out and just kind of talk about some general expectations and the things we might be looking forward to this season. And then in the second half, Mr. Stoll and myself, who have book knowledge, are going to continue to talk about the more spoiler aspects that we saw in the trailer and make some spoiler-filled predictions. So we'll make sure to give you a very clear spoiler warning when that happens, and Austin will disappear like House of Oberyn of House Martell. He will float away.
Can't quit. I quit this podcast.
He just got out of rehab last week, guys. I'm sorry.
I
took a whole year.
Forgotten. I still hold the grudge.
It took a whole year.
A whole year of rehab, but Austin finally came out just to talk about more Game of Thrones, and I'm already stabbing him again. All right, well, and I do want to remind everyone who's checking us out, we have returned to do this podcast for our partners at We Got This Covered. They are an excellent source for movie, TV, and gaming news. They're going to have weekly recaps immediately following the episode where they kind of do a little bit of a review and some recapping. And then, of course, later in the week, you can always tune in to hear our in-depth analytical discussion and our predictions and our fun and our drinks. It'll be merry. My times will be merry. You're gonna be in the heart of Game of Thrones season. It's very exciting. So keep it all at WeGotThisCovered.com. All right, guys. So before we move into talking about season 5, I do have a question. It's been a year, as you know, it's evident. It's been a year. How are we feeling about season 4? I mean, I think, you know, if you go back and listen to our season wrap up last year, we all loved it. I think we were pretty much in agreement that it was probably the best season of the show so far. But I want to see how are we feeling about it right now, Austin? I mean, how do you just kind of general impressions? I mean, at a glance here, I mean, how do you feel about it?
I still believe, having taken a step back and kind of evaluated all the seasons again, I still believe it's the best season by far. All the seasons are very good, but I do think this one is head and shoulders above the rest. Because so many storylines hit like a real climax, but ultimately didn't really end. It just created new storylines. So everything that we had kind of going on wrapped up quite a bit, but created new interesting mysteries that we have yet to kind of find out about, unless, of course, you know, you looked at a poster that HBO posted and it ruined everything for you.
HBO, man. Why, guys? Why you gotta do it? Why you gotta post Tyrion on a poster? But we'll save that for the spoiler section.
Why can't we just have the posters of Tyrion, like, naked eating grapes like we used to have?
I know! Those were so great! Because it gets everyone fired about Game of Thrones, and we're like, oh, it's a dwarf nude eating grapes. Come on. What gets you fired? Nothing gets you fired up like Game of Thrones than a new dwarf eating grapes. I mean, really. All right. Well, that's good to hear, Austin. You're feeling pretty consistent about it. Daniel, how about you? How are your feelings about season 4, kind of looking back?
Yeah, I think I would tend to agree with Austin that it tends to be one of the stronger seasons. It's been a while since I got to. I didn't get to go through and do like a whole marathon of all the seasons like I have done in the past, right before this one comes out. So, but I would say it's the strongest, just because of all it just created. As Austin was saying, it just created so many. The world just became bigger. I think after season 4, like. The storyline started to go and branch out, and we're learning more about the world, and I think and we're meeting new characters, and new characters are dying, and stuff like that. So I feel like it's probably the strongest season. I feel like this is gonna be the season that set, like there's season 1, 2, and 3, then season 4 is the setup for like the rest of the show, and it's gonna be like feel like a different show in a sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's a very interesting season because we saw the climax of the Lannister storyline. So Cersei trying to get Tyrion and Tywin, that relationship that had been boiling for 3 seasons, and even Jaime kind of returning to King's Landing to see how his own personal arc through season 3 had changed him, and how he would fit into that game. Now, obviously, we're going to still see more stuff with the Lannisters, but like what we'd seen so far had been building to this moment. And I would say that the same goes for things like the Littlefinger storyline with Sansa. That kind of came to a crucial point where he took her out of King's Landing and into the Eyrie. I mean, and with Arya, she's finally on her way to Braavos, is something that's had been building up for seasons. So I think you're totally right, because we got the climax to all that, but we also, at the very end, it definitely left on a note of, wow, this is going to be a different show. Tyrion's not in King's Landing anymore. That's kind of been like the core focus in season 2. Tywin's gone. At the Wall, there was a lot of change there too, because you had Stannis had showed up at the Wall. So I mean, there were definitely a lot of transitioning going on there too.
And what are we going to do with the overwhelming chicken population now that the Hound is gone?
I understand that if any more words come pouring out your cunt mouth, I'm going to have to eat every fucking chicken in this room.
I don't know how.
I don't know how is Westeros going to handle all those damn chickens, man.
and I don't know if you guys remember, I feel like a lot last season we talked about how much the world had started to change. And I think that kind of ties into it as well. The world has just changed so much after these first 3 seasons that's become like a new world in a sense.
Yeah.
And I think that this is the season that transitions from the old one to the new one.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's definitely true, and I think we're going to continue to see. I really feel like season 5, in a sense, is going to be like resetting the board, right? You're still going to have some characters who are around, but they're all in the same places. But for the most part, a lot of our characters are in different places doing very different things than they have been doing for the first 3 seasons. Kind of reminiscing here, what would be, if you guys had to pick a favorite storyline from last season, what would you roll with? Daniel, how about you?
The end of the season, the way that the storylines ended, I'm actually going to choose Sansa.
Okay.
Now, the beginning of this season, she was not my favorite storyline, but her last like 2 or 3 episodes really, really excited me about where her storyline could be going. And so I don't know. I guess you could. I wouldn't necessarily be my favorite, but that's the one I'm most excited about seeing going forward. If that makes sense, just based on the way it ended.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
So just because she started to become, her character has really started to change in this last season, and she's becoming more of a player herself, and so that's really exciting, I think.
Right, and something I can't wait to talk about in spoiler stall is that the Littlefinger Sansa storyline. I am extremely eager to see what's in store there, because that's going to be a new game for all of us. Totally new game, and it's very exciting to see. Now, Austin, how about you? If you had to go with a favorite storyline,
I'm going to cheat. Okay, so we're going there first. One, I'm going to put the obvious one aside, the whole Tyrion one, because it's amazing.
It was amazing.
It's too easy to call that one out.
Yes.
Favorite storyline probably last season would have been the Bran storyline.
Oh.
And kind of how all the mystery and stuff. It was so different from all the other ones. So I thought it was really interesting. But since we won't see that this season, I don't think, I'm going to have to go with, I'm hoping and I'm looking forward to the Greyjoys. Because, House Greyjoy.
Hey, yo-ho. Well, Austin, that's, I think that's a fair point, and I overlooked that one because generally we've all been like Bran, Jon. However, after rewatching season 4, I bought season 4 when it came out on Blu-ray, and I didn't marathon it like I typically do, which is probably smart. I kind of took it 2 episodes at a time, and I just finished this last week. And yeah, his storyline was still kind of filler, I think, but like that whole thing where they went up and met with the mutineers at Craster's Keep, that was a fun storyline. I don't feel like it moved the plot line a lot, but I really enjoyed the heck out of that storyline between that and Locke, the hunter from Bolton's Hunter guy. It was a lot of fun, and I don't think it was necessarily the most crucial, important story, but it was fun. I mean, I don't know, it was a nice little sidetrack. As far as the Greyjoys go, Austin, I don't have a lot to say, but I really hope you're right. I would love to see the Greyjoys.
Their time is coming, Caleb. I can feel it.
Their time to do something is surely coming.
Don't worry, they're coming. Not just 2 pizzas. There's going to be 5, and they're going to be huge. You won't believe it.
Based off of the lack of casting announcements, I'm slightly concerned that they're pushing it back a little further. That's all I'll say.
Oh, it can't happen.
I don't want to say. I'll just say this: in book 4, they end up being these massive players, and they didn't like when the casting announcement came out last year, and if you go back and listen to us talk about it, I was like, where's the Greyjoys?
Well, we can probably talk
They'll
about
be
this more.
surprised. They don't need to announce those castings.
That would be
Just
epic.
Show up.
That would be funny.
That would be epic.
What's really funny, and Caleb's going to know what I'm talking about, like, there's probably something that we expected to happen in that storyline, like back in season 3.
No, there was something. Yeah, there's totally like a major thing. We're like, hey, when's this thing gonna happen again? It should have happened a long time ago, but
in relation to them.
In relation to the Greyjoys, yeah, we were like, why is that not? And so the fact, here's the thing. I hold up hope though, because the fact that one thing hasn't happened yet, it convinces me that they if it wasn't important, they would have done it already, blown it off.
This is it. This season is the Greyjoy season. That's the only thing they're going to talk about the entire time. It's gonna be fantastic.
Screw the Martells who've been all over the promotion material. Greyjoys, that's where it's at. That's where it's at.
Or even better, Greyjoy Martell team up.
Ooh, now that would be sick. Take down King's Landing. Ninja Pirates. Okay, this is cool. So we do it like a classic, versus story. So you have them show up and they meet and they fight, and then they realize the real enemy is King's Landing, and then they team up to take out King's Landing, and they train the Martells train the pirates to fight. So they're pirate ninjas.
Yeah. How are you going to beat a pirate ninja? You can't. Can't do it.
Can't. Forget the Dothraki. Those guys are just barbaric. These guys are going to be freaking ninja assassins. They're going to be like the Faceless Men, except for there's going to be a million of them. And they're going to be drinking ale the whole time. Okay. Anyway,
I think we solved this season.
We solved the season.
Stop here, really.
Why even watch the show? With the fan fiction we just created is so much better than the actual show.
Yeah, look. So now I can go remove George R.R. Martin, and we can just handle this from here on out. It's fine.
Austin, I just want to remind you that George R.R. Martin has given us Game of Thrones, and it's been amazing. Why do you want to kill this man so much? Is it because Samwell Tarly is still alive?
He ruined it. He had his chance at the end of last season, and he blew it.
There's no hope. If Oberyn Martell can't do it, there's just no hope.
And Lucari never forgets.
Oh, the Lucaris never forget. That does remind me, though. That does bring me back to my favorite storyline, which, again, I think you can't pick Tyrion's storyline. It's like picking, I don't know. It's like saying Hurley from Lost is your favorite character, or saying, you just can't pick these people to be, because it's like obviously their favorite. So you set them aside, or it's like, who's your favorite Star Wars character? Everyone knows Han Solo is your favorite, so just get on with it, okay? I have to go with the Martell storyline, and for obvious reasons, that character they really. Watching it again, I swept up into it again. I was like, man, I freaking love Oberyn. Too bad he's gonna die. And then I kept loving it, and then every freaking scene he was in, I was like, God, this is just brilliant. This is just brilliant. And I'm like, and of course, last year was the same thing. Read the books, I knew it was going down, but it was even worse because I'd seen it already. And then you get to the fight again, and I was like, wow, I really don't want him to die. And then it happens, and I was still emotional. I was like, God, I can't. I was depressed for a few minutes after. I was like, this is just too much. But I did like the Martell storyline because it was, I think, the concept of the Martell, a very rich noble coming into a city to actually get vengeance and seek justice, was an interesting idea. I wish I could have seen it gone further because up to this point, outside of the Starks, who failed in season 1, we haven't really seen a character who had the political power, the agenda, and the finesse that Oberyn Martell had to get the things done that he wanted to do. Of any character we've seen, I felt like he had the potential to get the most done in King's Landing. And then it all died. But I think the cool thing about that, and talking about this as a transitional season, I think we're going to see... And again, I don't want to... I guess it is kind of a spoiler, but I'll just say this. The Prince of Dorne, the one who, if you think we loved him, imagine living from this guy's country and having a family and having many wives, women who fawned after him.
I was going to say, he probably slept with almost all the women in Dorne.
Yes.
So I'm sure they are very upset.
They are, exactly, very upset. So naturally, they're going to be like, hey.
Men. He was equal opportunity.
He was, men and women, that's right. He was equal opportunity. The gods made this and it delights me. So they're not going to be happy that their favorite person just died. And it's also going to look doubly suspicious that a second Martell has gone to King's Landing and been, like, brutally murdered. Oh, so all I'm saying is I think it's safe to say Martells might have something going on this season. We've reminisced for far long enough. Let's go ahead and talk more about Season 5. And Austin really is the star of this discussion because me and Daniel have to keep our mouths shut for the most part.
That's right, you do.
We can't talk. We don't want to let loose the awesomeness that's about to occur in Season 5. But I do want to ask Austin, just kind of general feeling, what are some of your expectations going into this season?
Aside from the obvious one that was spoiled, I'll just say that I had a lot. I'm really excited about where Tyrion's storyline is going. If you've been able to avoid the spoilers, congratulations.
Good. I don't know how you did it.
Yeah. I'm really excited about where it's going. I was pumped that he was able to escape and all of that. And with that, with Varys, too, because I think that's going to be a super interesting dynamic to have Varys and Tyrion kind of exchanging wits together, because they're probably the two most charismatic characters in the show. I don't know if that's really quite the right word, but they're both very cunning. You have Littlefinger, but he's a little bit more reserved, I think, than those two. They're a little bit, in their conversations, a little bit more outgoing. So it'll be interesting to see that dynamic and kind of where they go and what they do. I'm also really expecting some big things from the Greyjoys. They've done nothing for seasons. And I felt like that storyline has been kind of plugged here and there, and like they're trying to keep it in your thoughts, and they're trying to like say, oh, don't forget about these guys. This is a big deal. Don't forget about them. And nothing has happened yet. So I'm really, really, really hoping we get to see something exciting from them. Don't think we're going to see anything from Bran. I think they're taking a year off, if I remember correctly, from the casting announcements and things like that, which is unfortunate because Darth Maul and little baby could have been really, really cool to see. And maybe we'll still see some of that. That isn't necessarily directly tied to Bran, but it is kind of related to his storyline.
We don't. So what you're saying is we're not going to get to see the Transformer, the Hodor Megazord. We're not going to get to see Hodor Megazord take on Darth Maul baby.
That's right.
This season just got less interesting. I don't know what you guys.
I have to. On a side note, there is a rap video of Hodor versus Groot.
Oh gosh,
it's hilarious.
Oh, I gotta watch it. Oh man,
you have to turn on the captions to understand what any of them are saying, because of course it's just Hodor, and I am Groot.
That's funny.
That's awesome.
Hilarious.
I gotta check that out.
I could go through like all these storylines, but those are probably the two biggest ones. I'm less interested in the Martells at this point because the best Martell is gone. Those are definitely the biggest ones for me and what I'm most excited about.
Yeah, you talking about Tyrion reminds me, I believe it was in Season 2, when Tyrion was still the Hand, there was this moment where him and Varys are sitting out looking at the ocean.
You're an intelligent man. I'd like to think I'm an intelligent man.
Oh, no one disputes that, my lord, not even the multitudes who despise you.
I wish we could converse as two honest, intelligent men.
I wish we could, too.
Now that Varys is out of the fold in King's Landing, so he doesn't have a cover to blow, so to speak, and now obviously Tyrion's out there, maybe we'll get to see that, and it'll be a lot of fun, I hope. I really am looking forward to that dynamic, wherever they may be going. Spoilers. That's really cool. And Austin, Greyjoys, of course, very excited. Do you have any particular predictions?
One of my predictions from last season, if you were a avid listener, I think was pretty much confirmed via spoiler. So I won't go into that one right now. But if you know what it is, then you're probably spoiled at this point too. So I do think Dorne probably is just ballsy enough to wage all-out war against King's Landing, and I think that could be pretty awesome. I don't know what's going to happen though without support from the North at this point. Now that the Boltons have just destroyed that army. You don't have anything from the Starks. Renly's army's gone. All you really have up there is Stannis, which is great, but I think he has other ambitions at this point. I don't feel like he's concerned about pressing King's Landing right now. I think he really wants to secure the wall, secure the north. He feels it's his duty. But I do think Dorne is really going to start putting pressure on King's Landing.
Do you think maybe, you kind of alluded to it right there. Do you think maybe Stannis presses the Boltons?
I think he'll have to, because I think the Boltons are concerned about the wall. They know that Bran was up there, and they know that Jon Snow is up there, and they want to kind of end that problem for themselves. And the fact that they're north and at the wall kind of makes the wall their problem. It'll be interesting to see the clash, the eventual inevitable clash between the Boltons and Stannis.
That'll be epic. Get to see crazy witchcraft versus crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they're either all going to be flayed or all going to be burned. It's going to go one way or another.
We're either going to be burned or flayed.
Yep, that's pretty much what's
Whoever wins, we're flayed. I like that motto. The Sansa storyline, Littlefinger, though, we can all speculate on. Because it's all new for all of us. We have no idea what the heck is going on there. Now, there are some specifics based on the trailer that I will talk about with Stoll later, but I just want to talk about, generally speaking here, where do we see that storyline going? Stoll, do you have any ideas?
Based on what the show has shown us, I think that Sansa is going to become this person who may actually have some influence over Littlefinger. Now, I don't know how long it will take to get to that point. I don't think it's there yet. But I see her going down this path of trying to use her looking like her mother, and then Littlefinger's affection for her mother against him in a way that maybe no one else in the realm of the world of Westeros or whatever could actually do. Now, I don't know if it'll get to a point where it's full blown. She's manipulating him and using him completely this season, but I do see it headed in that direction, where she is starting to be more of an assertive person instead of just this. She does whatever she's told and hangs around. She's actually going to be actively doing things this season, which is super exciting to see her character eventually hit that point.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Although I do think, and I think we're thinking along the same lines, that Littlefinger is going to remain firmly in control of his senses in this scenario. I don't think he's going to be fooled by her, but if she's going to work with him, he's going to be pleased by it, basically.
Right.
Yeah, I think so, too. I think that's true. I think Littlefinger's still smart enough. I mean, she's got his pressure point, but I also don't think he's going to... at least I hope Littlefinger doesn't lose sight of what he's really after. And I think... I wonder if they might, at least this season, become more of accomplices together than, her controlling him or whatnot. There's a lot of potential for the storyline, though. And my question is, outside of the Sansa thing, which I am very, very excited to see the Sansa stuff develop, where does Littlefinger go from here? Now, because last season I knew, he's going to be revealed to poison Joffrey. He's going to go take the veil. It was really exciting. Now, we obviously I think we're all pretty much in agreement his endgame results in, screwing everyone over and taking the throne. But what is his next move? Because he's in an interesting position. Based on the end of last season, it looks like he's trying to secretly take over House Aaron by sending Robin away. And then he's going to be kind of the warden of the... And then when Robin comes back, he's going to use him as a pawn, kind of, right? So, but is he going to side with the... because he's actually pretty close to Bolton territory. Does he go with the Boltons? Who does he build alliances with at this point?
I don't think he gains full control over that kingdom. I think at this point he's gotten his hands dirty, and that was a big mistake against one of his big rules. And I think we start to see the downfall of Littlefinger. It'll be interesting.
What are you talking about, Austin? There's no downfall of Littlefinger. He's too good. He's already gotten out of killing Lysa Arryn. He already talked...
Initially.
Oh, man.
Those things never really go away.
Maybe, but it's Littlefinger. He'll figure something out because he's freaking awesome.
A queen died. Someone's going to keep asking questions.
Well, but her own bannermen were like, "Oh, okay. Well, I believe what Sansa Stark says, so we'll roll with that story." and not only that, if you go back and watch the scene, one of the guys is even like, "I'm sorry, we even ever doubted you." I was like, "Oh, come on, guys, you're eating it right up." It's funny. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out where I see, and maybe you're right, Austin. Maybe he doesn't take full control of the kingdom. What I'm curious to see is who does he align with? I'm trying to figure out if he goes with the Boltons or not, or if he tries to find someone a little more neutral to build alliances with, because I feel like for him, obviously being the pragmatist that he is, he's going to build relationships with whoever he seems the most advantageous. And I don't know, the Boltons are the closest territory-wise, but I don't know if that's going to be the best bet for him. I mean, for that particular scenario, but I don't know. I don't see where that story, like where the next step in his game goes, I guess.
Right, yeah. I can see what you're saying there, but he what he'll do is, I don't know what it is, but he'll line up with somebody, like you said, that will be most advantageous, and while he's doing that, he'll be working on a plan to screw them over. And then he'll break them down, and then he'll move on to the next advantageous person or whatever, because he's not going to actually align with anybody. He's just going to pretend to align with someone for a little bit.
Right. Always. I guess technically he's still aligned with the Tyrells to some extent, I believe.
Yeah.
I guess we haven't really seen that develop it. Anyway, enough of the Littlefinger. We'll have more talk about that in spoiler territory. Daniel, as far as storylines going, I mean, again, we'll talk more specifics here in a moment. But if you had to just kind of say generally, where do you think things are heading? We've already talked about the changed world. Do you have any other ideas for where we might be heading this season?
For Sansa's storyline, or
just in general?
Not really. Like I said, I expect season 5, to be like the reset, like the starting new, like everyone's going to be starting kind of this new story.
Right.
Arya's going to be starting her new story. Sansa's kind of starting this new story of this person who's actually being assertive in some way. Jon is kind of starting his new story of actually leading at the Wall. Tyrion's going to be starting a new story, wherever his path leads him. So they're all kind of like setting this new. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to say too much and spoil anything, but I feel like this is going to be a season where we're kind of resetting and people are starting in a different direction than they were maybe going in the first, where they originally had started.
I agree with you. It seems like the arcs that are going to play out through the end of the series basically are starting now.
Yes, that's exactly what my thought, Austin. You took the words right out of my mouth, because I wanted to take, Daniel, what you said a step further. Not only are they starting new storylines, I think this season is going to be the season where we start to feel like, oh, we're actually heading towards an end finally.
Right.
We're not even before we were, there were certain storylines that were heading somewhere, but now it's like, we even saw the last season, you have these storylines, these separate storylines coming together. Stannis at the Wall. Huge. It's two storylines put into one. We're going to have Tyrion coming into contact with people you probably wouldn't expect him to come in contact with. You're going to be setting the stakes here. Arya's going to be in Bravos, which there are other characters who venture to Bravos pretty frequently, might I say. But we're going to start to feel like these storylines are colliding and actually maybe heading towards where this show is eventually going to end, which the creators of the show are still pretty strong on stating that they want this to last 7 seasons, even in the most recent interviews. So I really think it's going to feel like the beginning of the end.
Yeah, and even with that, like as we kind of stated, like stories are branching out and we're getting bigger and we're getting more of a taste of the world, because like we're bringing Dorne in. We haven't seen much from them. We're going out to Bravos. We don't know a lot about what's going out there. But while it's also branching out, it's also going to start tying all the storylines in together, if that makes sense.
Yes, and we'll eventually end with an epic duel of ice and fire, of course, in the middle of a field. I don't know how it's going to go down, but anyway, guys, gosh dang it, I'm just ready for winter to hurry up and get here. Okay, it's been coming for 4 seasons now. Where's my snow? Okay, I know it's getting colder in the north, but let's actually move south.
One more thing that I want to remind people of, because I think it's going to be a huge deal. The bank no longer is backing the Lannisters at this point. They've thrown their support behind Stannis.
Ooh.
And I think that's going to play a much larger role than the Martells or even Stannis' army or any of that, is the fact that Lannisters no longer going to have the support of the bank.
I wonder if we're not going to start to see the Lannister legacy start to crumble, because Tywin, the mastermind, is out of the game.
Who's left? It's
Cersei. Cersei and okay. The only person who has any interest in actually controlling anything is Cersei. Tyrion's out of the fold. Jaime doesn't care.
Joffrey's brother and Sir Pounce, though.
Yeah, Sir Pounce. Sir Pounce. Oh, dude, Sir Pounce. He's a big player. He's gonna be important this season, I think. Now you bring up Austin, I completely forgot about Sir Pounce. But honestly, Cersei's the only one with power, and as it was revealed last season, and everything that happened might be easy to overlook. We found out the Lannisters were totally broke. There's no gold. All their money is off of credit, which, as you just reminded us, is going to be worthless credit because they're not being backed by the Iron Bank anymore. So,
right. And don't forget also that scene where Davos went to the Iron Bank and was discussing them. So maybe that will give them incentive to, okay, well, if the Lannisters are all on credit, maybe we should start giving our money to someone else.
Oh, and I think that's exactly what has happened. I think that's how Stannis got to the wall.
That is exactly how Stannis got to the wall. Because remember that scene following the Iron Bank? Davos took all that money down to his pirate buddy. I can't remember. And they got ships, and then they show up with an army. And it was funny rewatching that scene. The reason they backed the Lannisters was because of Tywin Lannister. But as soon as Davos is like,
Who's the real power in King's Landing?
Sir Davos.
Humour me.
Tywin Lannister.
How old is Tywin Lannister?
67.
67, and when he dies, who's in command? A half-grown boy, the product of incest. Cersei Lannister, a queen whose people despise her. Jaime Lannister, a man best known for killing the king he was sworn to protect. When Tywin's gone, who do you back?
That is a problem for another time.
Begging your pardon, I think it's a problem for now.
The Iron Bank is probably they're done with them at this point. And
it's
without
hard.
Any money.
Exactly.
It's going to get
really hard to win a war without money.
People are probably going to start starving, and it's going to be real bad.
Well, if seasons 1 through 4 were really seasons 1 through 3 were the downfall of the Stark family, maybe seasons 5 through 7 are the downfall of the Lannisters, because it's not looking good for them.
Especially with Tywin out of the picture, and with Cersei and Jaime's relationship the way it is, I don't see Cersei holding together all of King's Landing by herself with the way that she likes to run things. She can't do it, I don't think. So it's really going to start heading downhill somewhere, I think.
Cersei's not remotely as good as she thinks she is. Let's just put it that way. Exactly. She's good. She's good in her own in a way. She's very smart and cunning, but I think that's also her own downfall.
Good because of what her father was able to provide for her.
Well, when she was playing with people like Ned Stark and people like Littlefinger who weren't even playing the same game as her, she thought she was winning everything. So I just want to point that out. Versus, she's gonna be. And don't forget, Marjorie's gonna be marrying her son. There's gonna be a little. I mean, might be a power struggle there too.
Yeah,
that's exactly where I was going. Is we hadn't discussed the Tyrells yet, and I think they're at this point have far more power than the Lannisters.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, really, it was a brilliant move. They just kind of climbed through the ranks, they were.
They're the ones with the money. There's the ones with the farms. All that. The Lannisters are completely, entirely dependent on them, and at this point, without Tywin around, are totally powerless.
Well, then it's Olenna Tyrell who's controlling because Olenna Tyrell is awesome. She's a boss. I'll also point out people actually like the Tyrells. No one really likes Lannisters, like at all. At all. People like the Tyrells. But okay. Let's go ahead and wrap up our spoiler, our spoiler-free part of half the discussion here with a little guessing game, because it's always fun to do guessing games and trying to make predictions. And I will say, guys, we're gonna play a little game of death. We predict some of what characters are going to die this season. We'll start with that. This is a 2-part question. To start off, Austin. Name 1 or 2 or 3 people you think are going to bite the bullet this season.
Reek.
Ooh.
Cersei.
Oh, that's ballsy.
Dies. And I was going to say Jorah, but he's kind of been disgraced at this point and left. Let's go with Davos.
Davos.
Ooh,
Davos. Oh, I think 2 of those are really ballsy picks. Reek. I don't know. That's interesting because I don't know. I honestly don't know exactly where he's going to fit into the puzzle here either. But Cersei, Cersei is obviously a huge player for the Lannisters, and then Davos is literally the only thing remotely redeeming about Stannis at all. And if he bites it, I'm just like F Stannis. He can go die in a cave.
I think Davos dies, and I think that the Melisandre gains even more power, but eventually Stannis turns his back on her because as she gets more power, she becomes more and more crazy, and he realizes this isn't what he wants.
He realizes that burning his own relatives at the stake's not a good idea.
This is how my fan fiction goes, just so you know.
Oh, this is great fan fiction. Great fan fiction. And any ideas on how Cersei or Reek bite the bullet?
Reek either snaps out of it for a millisecond while something is happening, and then he gets killed. Or he tries to save somebody and gets killed. But I think that conditioning and that brainwashing, a little bit of him is still in there somewhere, and at some point that comes out, and then they just kill him for it.
So maybe he could.
Cersei, I'm not sure, but I think she oversteps her bounds this year. Finally, everyone else has died around her. Everyone that was protecting her is dead. Jaime is kind of done with her at this point. She has no one there looking after her anymore. The Tyrells have the real power, and they don't like her. I think she gets killed.
That would be glorious, Austin. I hope that happens. I mean, wow. Well, man, we'll see what happens with Cersei there. I will say, to your point, so with Reek, you think he snaps out of it, he does something really brave and noble, and then they kill him.
Yep.
Okay. Maybe he gets a speech. Maybe he gets an epic speech like he did last time before he goes crazy.
No speech. He's forgotten how to talk at this point.
Oh, that's true. I watching that scene where he goes to take Moat Caitlyn again. I was like, oh, dude, this guy is so screwed up. Oh boy. Okay, Daniel. How about you? Got any deaths you have in prediction there?
I'm gonna come up with a couple, but I will say this, and I do think that this has the potential to be the least death-filled season. So yeah, I don't know. There's nothing about like the books that tell me that. I just think from a show point of view, this will be, as we talked about. Really feel like this is going to be like kind of the resetting, the new stories, and so it's going to be a lot of setting up, like, and like revealing these new kind of storylines. And so there's not going to be a lot of death, but that's just, I could be completely wrong. It could be the most deaths we've ever had. I will stick with what Austin said. Actually, kind of stuck out to me. I think Jorah will somehow re-enter, and he may die. I'm going to go with Grey Worm.
It would make me so sad.
It would make me sad too. But I feel like I don't know. Like I'm really frustrated.
Daniel, you're wrecking my life here. You're telling me that Barack Obama without his balls. I need him on this show. I'm
pretty sure that's treason. What you just said is treason.
I need castrated Barack Obama on Game of Thrones to survive. Okay.
I actually wanted to say I can't even think of his name now. Crazy guy that I don't trust with
Dario.
I really wanted to say Dario. I really want to say Dario actually, and not Grey Worm. So actually, yeah, I'm going to trade that. I'm going to say Dario.
Dario kills Grey Worm.
No,
one of those two people. I'm just going to stick with one of them.
So someone on Team Daenerys, how about this? Dario and Grey Worm get in a fight to the death, and they both die because they're both epic.
No, they're not both going to die. One of them has to live. I don't know.
If you can only do two, that's fine. It's tough.
I really don't think like there's going to be a lot of death this season.
You know, that's fair. I will say maybe the show gives us a little breather after last season, because last season, guys, was rough. It was so rough, in fact, that on the season 4 Blu-rays, they had a special feature doing a round table, because there were enough characters to fill a round table to talk about how died. It was like 9 people, and they were all like major characters. You're like, holy crap.
You sweet summer child.
If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.
Never mind. I was gonna say Samwell Tarly, but that's not gonna happen.
Yes, please, for the love of God, kill off that fat piece of turd.
But Austin, he hasn't died yet. Why would they kill him now? He survived a battle at the wall.
He represents George R. R. Martin to me. He must die now.
Austin hates George R. R. Martin Austin hates Sam so much. Austin, he's survived this much. He's just going to keep going.
He can't. He
can, because he's got that unnatural knack to survive.
I hope Stannis just beats the living crap out of him. That's what I want.
If you think Stannis could beat him, if Austin's rooting for Stannis, it's a rough day.
Yeah. Look, maybe Samwell gets burned by Melisandre like a pig. They put an apple in his mouth.
Oh. Oh my gosh! Wow. Wow. Well, I do have a couple of predictions of my own sense here. I actually do think Jorah's gonna bite it this season. I think he's definitely coming back into the fold. I don't know exactly how he's coming back into the fold. I mean, I've got some ideas, but I honestly don't know. But I've got a feeling he's gonna show up and he's gonna freaking sacrifice himself for Daenerys, and I'm gonna be pissed off because she banished him. But he's gonna love her so much that she's gonna be in danger, and he's going to sacrifice himself somehow. I guarantee you that's what's gonna happen, and I'm gonna be pissed.
Caleb thinks he's watching The Notebook.
Why didn't you write me? Why? It wasn't over for me. I waited for you for 7 years. Now it's too late.
I wrote you 365 letters. I wrote you every day for a year.
You wrote me?
Yes. It wasn't over. It still isn't over.
Listen, man, I felt for Jorah when he got banished after doing all that work for a stupid reason. Anyway, beside the point, Jorah is gone, and he will die an epic gladiator, not Notebook, gladiator style death. All right.
Yeah. He's gonna get eaten by a dragon, and it's gonna be awesome.
No. He will not be by a dragon. He's really the only one I've got pinned this season. I've been thinking about this a lot. I don't think Cersei bites it. I think Cersei's in a heap of trouble. I don't know if she dies. Yeah. I feel like someone somewhere is going to think she's useful for something.
And I do think Austin, as possibly Davos too. I think that's a good thought. I could see that happen.
I could see Davos biting it. He's actually in a spot where I legitimately, like, where does he go? He convinced Stannis to go north. And I mean, I don't know what else he does, right? Like, I think he's very high. It's very likely he could pass just because he doesn't. I mean, like, what do you do with that character now, right? And as we kind of talked about last year, aside from characters like Oberyn, George R. R. Martin tends to kill people that are interesting storylines have kind of wrapped, right? So I don't know. I think that's a pretty fair prediction. Eesh, I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough.
That's really the only one I've got pinned. I could also see, and again, this is after rewatching the end of last season, Daenerys sends Daario away. I would not be surprised if Daario returned and totally stabbed her in the back. And this is not based off of prior book knowledge. This is just what I think. I honestly wonder if he left to go back to Yunkai to fight the Masters. The Masters, the dudes with tons of money, who had overtaken the city again. What if he returns and they've paid him off and now he's on their side? I don't know. I see there being backstabbing going on there. So he could bite it too. I don't think Daenerys bites it yet. I can't wait for her to get some comeuppance though. Final question. If we had to pick one character who gains the most this season, who would we go with?
Jon Snow.
Think Jon Snow gains the most?
Interesting.
Yeah, I think he's in a position right now where he's about ready to leave the fold, go off on his own and gain power and maybe an army, maybe some followers, maybe people realize how awesome he is. I think he has the most to gain right now.
He's really the only main Stark that's around. I mean, even though he's a bastard, I mean, Sansa's dead for all intents and purposes, and Arya's becoming Batman. So, yeah.
She's becoming Batman.
She is becoming Batman.
She's going from the Punisher to the Batman.
Yeah, exactly. She's going to have one rule. I don't know what that rule is going to be, but she comes back with one rule. I'm gonna stick it out with Littlefinger, guys. I think he gains the most. I think, again, he's playing it slow and patient. I think you're gonna see a lot of characters take a nosedive this season. I think it's very close between either him and Marjorie Tyrell. I think those two are the ones on the rise that they're gonna end up in a better position than they are now. Because I think Marjorie's getting married to Tommen, a very seemingly innocent and naive boy, as opposed to Joffrey. So it doesn't seem like she'll have any issue controlling him. And she'll have no problem consummating the marriage, which is going to solidify her as the queen of Westeros.
Because Tommen's all about it. We saw that last season.
Yeah, dude. He's like, oh, come to me in my bed. Come on. Night,
He's
midnight
like
hour.
8. He's so little.
The minute they aged him up a little bit, yeah, he looks very young. But yeah, those are my two picks. Littlefinger slowly continues to accumulate more power, and then Marjorie.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say Arya. Now, I don't know when we'll actually see what she gains come to fruition, but I think her going to Braavos and she's, I just think her being there, she will be able to gain like some knowledge, gain some abilities. I don't know exactly, but I just think her going there, getting away from the world, like actual King's Landing and all the politicalness, and being able to go into a different place and I don't know exactly what's going to happen there, but just while she's there, I think the ability that she will have to just rediscover herself and grow into the person that she wants to become, I think that it will be very valuable to her. I don't think we will see it come to fruition necessarily in this season, but I think this will be a very big season for her.
Yeah, she's like Littlefinger in a different way. She's slowly accumulating skills that I think are going and developing into a character that is going to be very crucial.
Set of skills.
She is going to develop she's going to develop a certain set of skills. That is correct.
Yeah, and I think while she's there, that what she gains will be. I think that she will gain more than anyone, because she has not a lot, so she has nothing to gain.
She's got nothing to lose. She has nothing. Everyone she knows is dead, and she's abandoned. She's literally on her own in a foreign country she doesn't know.
So I guess what I mean is, her spot now and then the spot she'll be at the season will be so much more. It may not be the most powerful, but it will be so much more than where she started that she will have gained the most.
Yeah, she'll have gained she'll be building off her potential and grow the most into a more
exactly.
Okay, yeah.
Guys, I just got breaking news from Twitter. Arya has been recast by Liam Neeson.
Oh.
There you go. Okay, I dig that. I dig that. That's what happens when she goes over. She comes back as a man with a certain set of skills.
Well, she was pretending to be a boy for a period of time.
She's like, they took my family.
If you're looking for ransom, I can tell you I don't have money. But what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you.
All right, guys. Well, that was a fun little spoiler-free discussion. Austin, thank you so much for tuning in and giving your spoiler-free predictions. I can't wait to talk more about the show this season. I honestly think last season was a lot of fun because I knew a lot of the secrets, and I was very excited to see the reactions I was going to get from Austin because he didn't know. I'm doubly excited now because I'm right there with you, and it's like being back in season 1 again to some extent on a lot of these storylines. So I'm very excited to actually talk to you about them like equals again. Guys, that'll wrap the spoiler-free part of our discussion. Now, I want to remind the people out there who are going to maintain their Game of Thrones Season 5 spoiler virginity, I need them to go away. I want to remind you can find us on a couple of different places. The first and foremost, please check us out on iTunes. Check us out on iTunes and give us a rating. How do you think our podcast is? And I highly recommend you to subscribe and go back. If you're looking to get fired up for the new season, go back and listen to the last episode we did last season. We did our top 10 countdown of our favorite moments from season 4. It's a great little show to get you fired up about the upcoming season. If today's discussion hasn't done that already, go check that out. And also the second place you can find us and give us feedback, which we love to hear, is going to be on our Facebook page. You can find us on facebook.com/thecastbeyondthewall and give us a like. I'm always updating with new news, new photos, all sorts of stuff like that. And you'll be able to, the first place you'll be able to find out about our podcast being live outside of We Got This Covered is our Facebook page. So please give us a like and then subscribe on iTunes. And lastly, if you do have a case of the Twitters and you like those short 140 character phrases, you can also find us on Twitter at cast_beyond_GOT. So go out, my friends, and follow us online, and we will continue to recap Game of Thrones Season 5 all the way to the end. And lastly, we got thiscovered.com, our great host. They're awesome. They keep up game updates, and they will have reviews posted within the 24 hours of this episode airing. So make sure to check out all the reviews there before you see our posts later in the week. Time to move into spoilers, and we're going to go ahead and get a quick bite of that trailer.
Nothing's more hateful than failing to protect the one you love.
There's no justice in this world. Not unless we make it. Avenge them.
I believe men of talent have a part to play in the war to come.
I will never sit on the Iron Throne.
You could help another climb those steps and take that seat.
I'm not going to stop the wheel. I'm going to break the wheel.
That little monster is out there somewhere drawing breath.
I don't think I'm ready for what I deserve.
With me! They'll never even find what's left of you.
You strip away the gold, knock down the statues, and this is what remains.
The Seven Kingdoms needs a ruler loved by millions with a powerful army and the right family name.
Good luck finding him.
Who said anything about him?
All right, guys, that was a clip from the first Game of Thrones Season 5 trailer that came out a couple months ago. Make sure if you want to actually go and watch the trailer, which I highly advise, you can watch either of those two trailers on WeGotThisCovered.com. Just Google Game of Thrones Season 5 trailer. We got this covered. All right, Daniel, so let's talk about this trailer a little bit here. I want to start off by talking about some new stuff that we saw in this trailer that we hadn't talked about, or that we kind of avoided in our previous discussion. Jaime is in Dorne. That's totally new. He's never in Dorne in the books, ever. Like, not anywhere remotely close to Dorne.
Yeah. At least not yet, anyway.
At least not yet. He's actually quite the opposite. Instead of going south, he goes north to River Run. So it looks like instead of sending that generic night guy to taking the head of Gregor Clegane down to Dorne, they're kind of filling that void with Jaime.
Yeah.
I'm really interested to see where this goes, because this is totally off book. It's totally new.
Right. Yeah. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how he interacts with the people down there, and I don't know how they're going to really do all the Blackfish stuff now, but it'll definitely be interesting for sure. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. That. I will say, changing from the books, I actually really dug that storyline where he goes to River Run. I really did. I thought it was kind of cool. It kind of showed his character growing quite a bit, and growing some brains and showing how cunning he is, as well as kind of giving us some closure to like the Blackfish a little bit and Edmure Tully. Maybe not a lot of people care about that anymore. I don't know, and maybe we'll get some more of that later. But it's interesting to see, and now he's gonna have to explain to them why Oberyn Martell is dead.
Yeah, that's true too, and I think. And I don't know how they feel about Jaime, so it'll be interesting to see how that conversation goes.
Well, he's a Lannister.
Exactly, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Should be fun times, and then I think we're gonna meet all the different Martells. You're gonna meet the Sand Snakes characters from the books. There's gonna be several of them, and you get little glimpses of them in the trailer. And I think ultimately you're gonna meet is it Doran Martell, the actual prince of Dorne, who was supposed to have gone to the wedding originally, but then sent Oberyn instead because he was sick. And obviously, I won't go too far down this rabbit hole, but they have their own agenda long term anyway, right? So that we find out about book 4 about who they're really kind of playing behind, and I wonder if that's going to not come to light here too.
Yeah, that'll be interesting for sure.
And I don't know, this kind of got pseudo. I don't know if it was you got a little glimpse of it in the second trailer, and it's also been kind of looks like Bronn and Jaime are going to be traveling together. So we'll be seeing a new Lannister bromance. So no more Tyrion. Tyrion and Bronn broken up, they're gone. But Bronn and Jaime, they're back.
Yeah, that'll be really cool to see their interaction. I really enjoyed their little fighting scenes last season. I guess he's going to continue to train Jaime, and that'll be fun to see.
Maybe he'll pimp slap Jaime with his golden hand again. That was kind of funny.
I honestly do think that he will have an influence on the way that Jaime fights.
Oh, yeah,
Jaime
seriously.
will be a much different fighter than he was before. So
absolutely, he'll be a lot dirtier fighter. He's not going to fight. He's not going to fight for honor so much.
Yeah.
So outside of that, though, what about kind of still sticking to new storylines or different storylines? Tyrion and Varys, right? So
yeah,
in the books, Varys is never with Tyrion at all. Period. Tyrion goes off on his own, and Varys just disappears straight up. Just disappears. We don't see him. But I'm very excited to see that we'll get to see these guys interact, and I wonder how Varys traveling with him isn't going to change the game a little bit, because that's pretty substantial, having that totally other character whose alliances up to this point have been pretty elusive. I mean, like, where they lie exactly.
Right, and I think that based on the scene that we saw all the way back in season 1, where Arya caught Varys in the dungeons with Illyrio, I think is his name.
Yeah.
So I think that he definitely knows about, and based on what we saw in the trailer, he seems to really know about what's going on with Daenerys. I think that because in the books they're not together, and so Tyrion's sort of just like, well, I'll kind of head this direction because that's all I really got in a way, or an Illyrio kind of leads him in that direction. But with Varys there, I think Varys is really going to plant some seeds in his mind of why this might be a good decision.
Well, I mean, even the trailer, it literally spells it out. And for those of you who've been tuning in for the rest of this episode, this is the spoiler we're talking about. The Tyrion looking at the dragon on the boat, which is pretty much saying, hey, he's going to go meet up with Daenerys.
Yeah.
Pretty blatant. And then the trailer like highlights that. He's like, Tyrion's like, I don't know why I'd want to help any man climb the throne. He's like, well, it's not a man,
Yeah. And I think that Varys is going to have a lot of information on her that he's going to reveal and be able to it seems like based on the trailer he is almost on her side a little bit, and it's like kind of supporting her, and he thinks that Tyrion will be a good asset for her to have, and so he's almost like pushing him to go to her, which is very interesting, and it'll be just really interesting to see how that plays out.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's exactly where he's pushing him, and I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the season we see the two of them make it together, even though that's not quite the case in the books. I think again this acceleration of the storylines we're seeing here.
Yeah.
And honestly, in 10 episodes, I do think we're gonna see a lot of trimming going on in that storyline with Tyrion.
I don't. It's sad to say that I don't think we'll get to see the. Oh my gosh, I forgot their names.
Griff and Little Griff.
Yeah, I don't think we'll get to see Griff and Little Griff, which is actually kind of disappointing because once you find out who Griff is, it's like, whoa, like I didn't know this person even existed. That could change the game entirely. And I don't feel like we're going to get to see that in the show, which is actually kind of disappointing. But I understand the speeding up of the storyline and trimming things that aren't super necessary, but I did that was one part of the book where I was just like, whoa, I didn't know he existed. That changes kind of everything. So
yeah, and we're alluding to, well, I don't know, I guess we should, we can talk about why not. We're alluding to Aerys Targaryen. There was another Targaryen that we had no clue existed, and there's this whole other storyline with him and this guy named John Conyngham, who describes himself as Griff and Young Griff, and basically they're going straight for what they're doing. What Daenerys should have done, which is gone straight for Westeros, but get an army, go to Westeros. And they're definitely not going to make it this season. I wonder if that entire storyline might be cut from the show altogether. Honestly,
we don't really know where it's headed in the books, so I don't know if it's supposed to come up really like a big deal in the books, but it doesn't seem like we're going to get much of it from the show, so it might just be cut.
Well, and this whole theory of, remember we've talked a lot about the three-headed dragon thing?
Right.
Not really in the show. In the books, yes.
Yeah,
big deal. But in the show, I don't think they've really talked about the prophecy of the three-headed dragon at all, actually, now I think about it.
They've actually not talked about a lot of the prophecies. Like, they don't talk about the prophecy with Daenerys and her 3 betrayals,
right?
Which is a really big deal to her in the book. Figuring out like her 3 betrayals, and especially with
makes her double paranoid because she's always thinking who's going to betray me. What was that? One for love, one for money. What was the other one?
Which at least makes a little bit more sense why she's so eager to banish Jorah because of this prophecy. Not saying that I like it or agree with the decision, but at least that put in some perspective. Like, she was really worried about this prophecy, and it seems like he's betrayed her, and so now that's why she banishes him. It made a little bit more sense in the book, at least to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's really consumed with that in the book, and so they've definitely not alluded to some of the prophecies in the show as they have in the book.
Well, and I almost want to say they would totally cut out Cersei has her own prophecy that we become aware of in the 4th book that I would say would generally not play a role because the show is steered clear of prophecies so far. But they made a casting announcement. They casted a young Cersei, and there's going to be flashbacks this season.
Yeah, I was going to say when they talked about the flashback, maybe in the first season where they have a flashback, I think that is what they're going to be doing the flashback with is her prophecy about when she was a little girl, about when some woman would come in and take over and all this kind of stuff. So I think will be really cool to kind of see how this show uses flashbacks. But I think that's what that prophecy will be, the flashback.
Right. So if you remember, just kind of run listeners down. Basically, in the books, the 4th book is the first one in which you get to read Cersei's thoughts. She's a point of view character. And in this book, you find out that she's actually one of the reasons she's so paranoid is because when she was a child, she had this prophecy made by this like witchy type lady. She had her and this childhood friend who always made fun of this like witch type character, and eventually this witch type character made a prophecy that Cersei has dreamed about ever since. Basically, that there's going to be this other queen who's going to come in and remove power from her. She's going to steal the throne from her, essentially, right? I believe that Cersei thinks this person is Marjorie. I also think that the person that the prophecy is actually predicting is Daenerys. But, that's neither here nor there. Anyway, that's getting off into book territory quite a bit. But, I think we're going to get to see flashbacks of this season. That's going to be very, very exciting to see how the show handles that, because it's going to be like a new dynamic. This is a show that so far I'm excited because I love flashbacks as a plot device, but I also am a little worried because Game of Thrones has done such an amazing job at like giving us all this very rich history and backstory without giving us a single flashback. So it almost at this point, it almost doesn't feel like it's in the fabric of the show to do a flashback.
Right.
So I'm a little nervous about flashbacks. I'm excited.
I'm cautiously excited about it.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, well, kind of moving on. I don't know, Stoll, you saw the trailer. The dudes with the masks. So, attacking Marine.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think Daenerys is going to finally get some kind of comeuppance here. And I think we're going to see that she's being attacked by an army made up of people who follow or are hired by the masters, which are, of course, all these wealthy slave owners. Now, I don't want to go into too much detail because you haven't quite finished the book yet. But I will say that's something that has not occurred yet.
Right.
So again, I wonder if we're gonna be at this point where the storylines of the books are accelerated to the point that we are going to be, by the time the season's over, I actually fully expect to be totally past where all the books are at, or actually caught up on everything. Because that's a storyline where you're like, in the books you're reading it and you kind of find out about it and you're like, oh, okay, and the show is just totally accelerated the heck out of it. So, I mean, what do you have any thoughts on that at all?
No, nothing in particular. I don't know. I mean, it depends on, I don't know exactly what they're going to include with Daenerys, like how far they're going to push Daenerys this season in the show. It does seem like they're going to really push the whole like Tyrion headed towards her thing. But I don't know if they're going to actually meet up this season or not. But, and then on her whole marriage and things like that, her whole storyline is really, the way the decisions she's making are really starting to frustrate me. From the show's perspective, I think they're really starting to change things up from the book, and so their whole speeding up process is, while it is speeding it up, it's also changing things, and so things are happening in a different timeline and things like that. So I think that's part of the reason too. But I don't know. I don't have too much to say about that. Them attacking Marine in particular. Just that I think that Daenerys has found herself in a pretty poor situation by this point, and she's really unsure of how to get out of it.
Right. Now, do you think, I guess, do you think we're finally going to get to see, you think Daenerys' whole, like, free the slaves campaign is finally catching up to her, I guess?
Yeah, I definitely think that is happening. I think she's going to have to, and I don't think she's ever going to say, don't free the slaves. I think she may come to a point where she is in this season where she may not free them in the way that she has before, if that makes sense. Like, she will make a decision to let some of the innocent people get hurt like she has never been willing to do before.
She have to compromise herself on a lot of things. Yeah,
I think this will be a season where she compromises a lot.
Finally, she might be learning. She might learn something. Finally, oh, goodness. Yeah. She's been a pretty stubborn stick in the mud lately. So I'm interested to see how that goes. Well, one other storyline I want to hit on, which we alluded to last season, but didn't get to go into full detail because Austin was around, and this is the Lady Stoneheart scenario. Mm-hmm. Now, Lady Stoneheart was not revealed at the end of last season. Now, if those of you remember, we were all anxiously awaiting the arrival of Lady Stoneheart. In fact, a lot of us were so anticipating Lady Stoneheart that we were telling everyone, oh, dude, there's this thing that's going to happen. It's going to be awesome. And then, I mean, I'm not just talking about like me and Daniel, but just the Game of Thrones community in general. The book readers were all on edge being like, oh, man, this thing's going to happen. This thing's going to happen. Stoneheart, and then it turned to a code word. Like it's like one of those Game of Thrones. It's how Game of Thrones spoils stuff without spoiling stuff. They're like red wedding, purple wedding, Stoneheart. You know, like keywords. You're like not spoiling it, but you're spoiling something's gonna happen.
Cold hands.
Cold hands. Yes, another one. That's how Game of Thrones fans spoil stuff without actually spoiling it. I've been guilty of this at some point, but I attempting to wean myself back from it because I think it's actually setting an unhealthy trend for. Unhealthy expectations for people who want to go in clean. But do you think Lady Stoneheart, that is the resurrected Catelyn Stark, do you think she is out of the show entirely? Or do you think that she's going to show up this season?
I think that she's out of the show. I don't think they're going to go down that road. I think that if they were going to, they would have done it at the end of last season. I think the end of last season was the perfect opportunity to reveal that storyline. And I think that they're just going to kind of cut it out of the show. Yeah, I don't see it happening. Yeah.
That's totally cool because I'm with you. I thought they had the cliffhanger to end all cliffhangers on a season finale. Like, I was waiting, Arya's out on the boat, and I was like, okay, it's going to fade to black, and they're going to fade back up, and it's going to be the dark, foggy woods, and you're going to, by the river. Right. And, that scene just plays like a movie. Like, that the way it was written, and they didn't do that. Now the question I have, and I actually side with you, I think Lady Stoneheart's totally out of the fold. I don't think we see her come in this season. I don't think we see her come in for the rest of the show. However, that does beg the question: if she's out, what the heck does Brienne do? Because her storyline in the books is tied very closely to Lady Stoneheart. Sort of her and her storyline does tie very closely to the Brotherhood without banners.
Yeah,
and if she's not around, if Stoneheart's not around, they're not around. And if they're not around, what the heck does Brienne do? So I wonder if we're gonna see a new story with her. I don't know. I don't know where it's going.
Yeah, I don't really know where it's going with that either. I think that the show has done like this, like we were talking about with the prophecies a second ago. They've almost tried to like stay away from like magic a lot in the show. I mean, we've seen stuff with Melisandre. And a couple of things with Daenerys, but like any like big time magic related things, like they've really magical, fantastical type of things, they've really stayed away from for the most part, which is very interesting because I think they're eventually going to have to deal with it with some of the things that happen in the books. But Lady Stoneheart is one of those that's like a very like magical, unexplainable events, and they're staying away from it, and so. I think that has something to do with it. But yeah, with the whole regards to Brienne, I don't know what they're going to do with her. I mean, I guess they could technically do some of the stuff, but with the Brotherhood without banners, a lot of what they were doing was based off of what Lady Stoneheart was telling them. So yeah, I really don't know what her and Pod are going to be doing this season.
What her whole storyline was, she was trying to track down Sansa Stark, and she ended up getting onto the trail of the Brotherhood without banners, and followed it, and then that's where it ended. It's like, okay, so where does that go exactly?
Yeah, and then she did run. At the end of last season, she did run into Arya. That was a little bit different too. So I don't really know what they're doing with her. Her storyline for me in the book was more of a dull storyline.
Yes. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to other storylines that are in the books that might be a little different, and then we'll wrap this puppy up. Now, Jon Snow. Up in the north, obviously. I think his big struggle this season is going to be finding balance. Who does he really serve here? Does he serve Stannis? Because I think Stannis is, is definitely going to demand him to bend the knee, so to speak.
Yeah.
Does he serve the Night's Watch? Right? In the books at this point, he's a Lord and Commander. He's not there in the show, but he's kind of set himself up for that role by leading the charge on the, Battle of the Wall. And then the last question is, and I'm sure you've kind of gathered this in how you read the books, even though you haven't kind of concluded yet. Does he serve the wildlings?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. He tries I feel like Jon does a really good job in book 5 of trying to do what you're saying, that balance of doing what's best for the Night's Watch while not at the same time not making Stannis super angry, but not giving in to what Stannis wants, while also trying to take care of the wildlings because he realizes that they are people and they are in danger, and just he's got a task that's like almost impossible. And I think like he actually does the best that he can with that. And I do think I agree with you that this season will be focused on trying to figure out those three kind of situations: the Stannis situation, the wall situation, and the wildling situation, while also keeping in the back of his mind the White Walker situation.
Yeah, and I think it was the second trailer he makes the point. I think it's the best point he's got going for him. I mean, at least from a practical, pragmatic standpoint, every single wildling we kill, that's just another number to the army, the White Walker army, right?
Right, exactly. And if you can convince them to be on your side, then you may be able to protect better than you without them if you're just killing them. So.
Right. If you're just killing them, you're actually just making more enemies for yourself.
Right.
So yeah, I have a very, very interesting idea there, and I'm excited to see how they kind of handle this in the show. It's going to be tough. It's going to be, like you said, almost an impossible feat because by trying to defend the wildlings, a lot of people would say he's actually betraying the cause of the Night's Watch altogether, right?
Right.
He's letting these, outsiders that they're back in to Westeros.
I mean, as far as most people are concerned, that's what the wall is for, is to keep the wildlings out. I would argue that its original purpose was not for that, but that's what it's kind of turned into. And so the fact that he might not be just keeping them out, but instead keep letting them come in and then training them would be very almost like treachery to some people at the wall. So.
Yeah, he's a traitor, treasonous. Yeah,
yeah.
So I don't know. Well, I guess we'll have to see how that plays out. I'm very excited to see Jon's storyline play out this season. He's in a really tough spot. Despite I feel like he's coming into his own as a character more than he ever has. I feel like he's also in the toughest spot he's ever been in.
Yeah, I don't necessarily feel like he's in a life-threatening spot, but it could very easily get to that point. Yeah. If he doesn't play his cards right.
Right. Surprisingly, who has been left out of the trailers altogether is Sam. Like, totally left out of everything.
His storyline, it was really boring. I thought.
Oh, it's ultra boring. He's on a freaking boat almost the whole time.
Where he ended at was like, holy mackerel! What this could have
changes how you view the entire Game of Thrones series, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and move on to another storyline that is existent in the books that we saw in the trailer, and that is the power struggle between Cersei and Marjorie in King's Landing. And this, again, for those of you who have not read the books, this is a huge, huge storyline in the books, because Cersei, this is the first time we get a Cersei point of view chapter in the books, and you get to find out how freaking paranoid crazy this woman is. And we've already talked about the prophecy a little bit, but she's crazy. She's really crazy. I don't know how it's dangerous how crazy she is. And she's always plotting against people, mostly for no reason. I mean, her outfit with Marjorie is pretty reasonable, but like everybody else, she's like trying to screw everyone over for no reason.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to see how the season kind of handles this, because I actually, going back and listening to our talks last season, Austin was very adamant that her storyline had kind of flatlined. So I think this is going to be cool to see her actually have something important to do outside of screw Tyrion over.
Yeah, and I do think, though, that her storyline will be like a lot about her not being able to control things and her losing power, and, her whole situation with Jaime will continue to diminish, and yeah, I think this will be like the downfall of Cersei season.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think at the end of the season, we're going to see her in a much lower place than she is at the beginning. And I that leads me to the introduction of the religious groups, right? That have always been around, not so much on the show, like we've only alluded to them a little bit, the High Septons. But this season's going to introduce a character none other than High Sparrow, played by Jonathan Pryce. That's right, Elizabeth Swann's dad from Pirates of the Caribbean is going to play the leader of the High Septons, which religion in the books is always kind of a theme, and of Game of Thrones, and in the show it's kind of there, but they honestly kind of like the mysticism, the magic. Daniel, you were talking about a minute ago, the religious aspect of that nation, they kind of downplay quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I think this season is where we're going to start to see that the way gods are used as the name of God is used as a weapon, and justice is going to come to play with this character High Sparrow. Obviously, ultimately being Cersei's downfall. The last storyline, Stoll, I want to hit on before we kind of do a total wrap up here is Theon with the Bolton storyline. Stoll, do you have any hope that the Greyjoys will be involved in this season at all?
I don't think so. Sorry to burst Austin's bubble, but I don't think so. I don't think they're going to be super involved in this season. I feel like they really are just kind of cutting a lot of their stuff out.
Yeah, I think most of that stuff's going to get cut out too. But to Austin's point, though, what bugs me about it is two things. They still haven't killed. Oh gosh, what's his name?
Balon.
They still haven't killed Balon, which makes me think that they're holding on to that so they can kill him later, so it'll be important. That's one. And two, also to his point, like they do keep bringing them back up, like as if they're like going to have a role to play, right? I don't. So that's like, well, okay, clearly they want us to remember that these people exist, but how much longer are they going to stretch that out? I think at some point they're going to do something, but like this season, I don't know. It's not going to be this season because they didn't cast any of the actors for any of the roles. So I think that's totally out of the book, and I think you're totally right. I think the series overall they're getting nixed for the most part, but I feel like that family is going to have a role to play. Well, last question before we do a wrap up for the night is how do you feel that you're kind of heading into uncharted territory here? I mean, because for me and you last season, to the most extent, we actually knew what's going to happen, other than some small changes here. I mean, are you excited? Are you nervous? I mean, how do you feel?
I am excited about it. I mean, I think the show has proven to this point that they do a really good job with the content that they do decide to change and the way they do keep things the same. And while I do think this will be changed the most, I think they've proven that they can do a good job at creating new content. So I'm really excited to see how they what their take is on everything that's going on.
Yeah, it's kind of a different perspective on things we already liked, and it's kind of, at least for me, this is the first time I've gone in blind since season 2, like when I watched the first 2 seasons and got into the show.
Right.
So it's really exciting to not know what's going on, because reading the books was amazing. It really was, but it's kind of cool to be able to experience the show along with other people who also don't know what's going on versus the books where you experience it kind of on your own. So it's pretty cool, and I'm excited to see how these changes kind of play out. All right, well, guys, that'll wrap our spoiler discussion. I mean, there's probably a million other things out there. Those of you who've read the books know exactly what we can talk about. Feel free to tweet me at BigCalKenobi91, and we can chat about that on the interwebs. But I want to remind everyone, you can find us, remind everyone who tuned in, please go to the iTunes page and subscribe and give us a rating. It's going to help new viewers find our show and hear us chat about Game of Thrones, and we would really like that to happen. And also, if you don't mind, leave us a review just so people can kind of get a feel of what we're about. And of course, as I mentioned, we're also on the Facebook.com/CastBeyondTheWall, where you can like our pages and follow all the news updates, get the fastest updates on our podcast. And something I forgot to mention earlier is we're also on YouTube. Every single one of our episodes will be posted on YouTube within 24 hours of the post. You can subscribe to us on YouTube if you're a big YouTube watcher and listen to our show there. And last but not least, all of the great discussion of Game of Thrones you can find on the reviews on WeGotThisCovered.com. Guys, I'm very excited. Very, very excited that we're back to Game of Thrones, and we're going to be podcasting about it for the next 12 weeks. It's a real thrill, and I'm glad to be back. Now, make sure to go ahead and follow us and not to miss our discussion on Episode 1 of Season 5, The Wars to Come. Until next time.
It's the only way to save the people I love is to kill George R.R. Martin.
To ensure that
They don't die.
No more characters die. The only way is to keep the series from ending.
That's right. I can just live in a world where all my favorite characters are still alive.
But there's no closure, Austin. Maybe they did die.
You know what? I can just make up my own stories. Fan stories.
Oh, no. Not fan fiction. No.